Hi, Mike Brantley, Auctioneer, here with you today discussing what we call state auctioneer commissions. And I'm not talking about commissions that auctioneers charge, but in this venue here, we're talking about the body, the number of people that are on a state auctioneer commission, or commission, as we say in the casual sense, that help oversee auctioneer licensing in a state. So many states that license auctioneers have such a body called the commission or the auction commission or the state auctioneers commission, whatever you want to call them. And in the subject state we're talking about today, they have an auctioneer commission that helps oversee, to some degree, auctioneer licensing in this state. And then there's an administrative or a regulatory arm that runs the day-to-day and also oversees auctioneers who are licensed in this state. Contrasting that with, in this same state, we have real estate licensing, as there is all across the United States. And in the real estate license side of our state, there is a state real estate commission, and there's an administrative or regulatory arm headed up by a superintendent. So on the real estate side, simply put, there's a day-to-day operation that people can walk in, ask questions, file forms, the day-to-day activity. And then there's a real estate commission that oversees otherwise, and they work in tandem to regulate real estate license activity in this state. Similar to, on the auction side, we have a day-to-day department, division, administrative, regulatory arm that handles the day-to-day, and we have an auction commission that works with them. But that's where the similarities end. Let me tell you about the real estate side. On the real estate side, real estate licensees and the real estate license business is regulated by the Real Estate Commission. The Real Estate Commission in this state suspends, revokes, fines, requires additional CE, or publicizes wrongdoing by licensees. They oversee decisions made by the superintendent or the division or the regulatory arm. They can fine a real estate licensee an unlimited amount. They're not limited, up to $2,500 per violation with no limit. And they are the final say when it comes to real estate licensing and real estate licensees in this state. The regulatory arm, the division, as we call it, the Division of Real Estate and Professional Licensing, they handle the day-to-day. I want to change brokers. I want to renew my license. I want to put my license on inactive status. Well, I don't go to the Real Estate Commission for that. They don't handle such issues. The division handles such issues. When I'm teaching real estate, we often equate or talk about the commission and the division with an analogy of a school, maybe a high school, where there's a principal, superintendent, that runs the day-to-day business. They're in the office almost every day, and the staff there administer supervision of the students. And then the commission, the real estate commission, would be much like the school board, who would oversee the principal and the staff. On the auctioneer side of things, in this same state, with the same governor and the same legislature, the auction commission is charged with three things. They approve or disapprove auction schools. They administer or attempt to administer the Education and Research Fund, which is a portion of auctioneer licensing fees that go into this fund, and then the auction commission is charged with dispersing those funds. And third, they administer the oral exam for auction prospective licensees who are trying to become auctioneers. They have to take a written test and an oral test. That's it. They don't do anything else. The division, the department that oversees auctioneers in this very same state, handles everything else. And they have the final say on everything. In other words, the auction commission essentially works for the department. On the real estate side, the division of real estate, the department of real estate, if you will, it works subject to the commission. The commission oversees the department or the regulatory arm. On the auction side, the division, the department, the regulatory agency oversees the auction commission. And let me give you an example of that overseeing. The auction commission might decide, well, we've got so much money in this fund, and we want to spend some of this money on this project or that project. And the department, the division, might come in and say, well, we've contacted the Attorney General's office. We have an attorney sitting right here, and you're not going to spend that money in that fashion. Well, wait a minute. We're the auction commission. We're charged with deciding how that money's spent. Well, we have a right to overrule your decision. The department can overrule the auction commission. On the real estate side, the real estate commission overrules or may overrule the division or the department. And so the question really becomes, what entity, who is regulating an occupation in any state? Take any state at all. Who's ultimately in charge of regulation? Deciding whose license should be suspended or revoked or fined or CE or publication, deciding if proper actions taking, what that fine should be, what the education requirements should be, all that kind of thing. Who decides that? Who makes that decision? Well, I live in a state where on the real estate side, the real estate commission makes all those decisions. And on the auction side, the auction commission makes none of those decisions. And even if they make a decision, it can be overruled by the department, the state employees. I'm not really here to tell you which one is better or worse, but it would seem to me in any state there would be some uniformity to how the commission, made up of licensees appointed by the governor, are charged with their duties, and how the department, division, regulatory arm, administrative arm are charged with their duties. And it would seem to me that if you would argue, well, on the one hand, the real estate system is ideal, perfect, the way it should be, well, then you would have to argue the auction side of things would be completely wrong. Or if you think the auction side is perfect, the way it should be, then we should be changing the real estate model because it's the complete opposite. I don't know how your state administers, oversees, licenses, and maintains supervision over auctioneers. But if you live in a licensed state and your state supervises, oversees auctioneers in a licensed state in a certain fashion that's completely different or somewhat different than they license other people, I would think it would make sense to synchronize or make similar those different licensing entities. An occupation is an occupation is an occupation. If it's, why would one be terribly different than the other? I think that's basically my question today. Mike Brantley, Auctioneer. Pleasure to be with you today. Other videos on the same page and others forthcoming. Have a great day and stay safe.